Why'd I always have to do the early one? I'm not any more of a morning person this year than I was last year. I do have a new robe though. I'm psyched to be doing the morning address again for the second annual WriteOnCon. Woo! It really is. It's been an exciting year. Some stuff happened. I don't know. How was your year? Good. All right. It was a good year for me. And it's not really early in the morning, so here's the part where I rip off my robe to reveal my tuxedo.
Josh!
What?
Your tuxedo's
What?
at the cleaners.
Wait, my tuxedo's at the cleaners? What?
Yeah.
What?
Your
What?
tuxedo, don't forget. It's
What?
at the cleaners.
What am I wearing under this robe?
Well, your spandex cat suit hanger is empty.
Oh, the cat suit.
You know what, the one with the nipple cutout?
Yeah, shh. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep the robe on, if that's okay. Okay, time for serious business. You can tell it's serious because I'm wearing glasses, and because you can see my whole head now. Like I did last year, I'm going to start off your conference by giving you 3 pieces of advice. This is what I was asked to do. And for the first one, I'm going to blatantly steal from an author I heard earlier this year. One of the coolest things in my past year has been getting to travel around and meet readers and meet writers and present with writers, and I was on a panel at the Teen Book Festival with Charles Benoit and John Scavron and Tori Maldonado, and we were this debut author panel, and we had, it was so much fun. And one of the things that Tori said sticks in my head when I want to give advice to writers, and he talks about when he was a kid, I think it was his mom, was not necessarily the best cook, and would make some food and everyone would be eating it and they'd be like, this is awful, and she's like, well, I like it, and the kids were like, but you're not the only one who's eating it. And I don't know, I just love it because it just reminded me so much of being a young writer who I was always, well, I think it's good, I don't care what other people think, I don't want to be constrained by what audience brings to it or what a critic might say. And it's true that you can write like that, and you should if it's fun for you, but if you're going to be pursuing publication and seeking an audience, it's communication, right? Writing is about communication, and you're not the only one who is eating what you're cooking. And it's especially of interest to those of us who write for young people, because I think it's a greater challenge, not to deride you adult authors, though you do it to us all the time, shakes fist. Anyway, writing for young people I think is just such a great challenge, because we can't be an effective arbiter of our own work because we're not our own audience, right? We can write something that seems great to us, but we have to remind ourselves, does it ring true to the people who are going to be reading this, who are the young people out there that we hope to connect with? So we can fall in love with a sentence or a metaphor or some interest that we want our character to have because we have it. But just because we love it, we're not the only one who's going to be eating this book. And we need to remember that someone from a different mindset, from a different generation maybe, from a different world maybe, is going to also be trying to connect to this book. And it's something that when you read it, that this author has nailed the young person's point of view and the young person's feelings. And I think that the feelings are more important than the details, to be honest. The small little facts, technology changes, all these things change, when we're writing for young people, that can be disturbing, but the feelings of being young, I think, are timeless, and we have this special challenge to try to remember how to put ourselves in the mindset of the young and remember that they are going to be eating what we're cooking, and it's not for us, it is for them. So that's the one. Okay, piece of advice number 2. This one I'm going to also steal. That's the overarching theme of advice, is to know from whom to steal. That's important. Writing advice. This piece of advice I'm stealing from my son. He's 4, and I recently asked him what he wanted to be, and he picked up a stick, started scratching it into the stones outside our house, and I was like, "You want to be a guy who scratches stones with sticks? That's a weird job." He said, "No." And first of all, he always used to say he wanted to be a knight, and I never discouraged him. Like, I didn't want to point out that knights don't really, like, that's a rough job market, but anyway, I just let it go. But then he kind of figured it out on his own, or someone told him at school, like, knights is tough. So when he did this, he said, "I want to be a writer." And I was like, "Oh, it's even worse of a job market than being a knight," but of course I felt proud. And he said, "Yeah, I just got to figure out how to read first." And of course he's 4, so he was being literal. He does not know how to read. He meant he literally had to figure out how to read. You know, how the letters that he was writing, he didn't know what they were. So he was being very literal, but I was like, hey, that is great advice. If you want to write, you have to figure out how to read first. And I sometimes meet writers who wonder if they have to read a lot, or complain that they don't have time to read. They want to write YA, but they don't really feel like reading any of it. And, is that okay? No. I mean, I shouldn't say no. I mean, maybe someone could pull it off, but I don't know how you could. I really think you need to read and read and read. And I'm a librarian. I was a library science student before I became a writer, and I had a curriculum. I took the history of children's literature. I took a young adult literature class. I took we just had these giant binders full of titles. We had to read them. It was awesome. It was the best training for a writer. I never took writing classes. I never took any classes on how to write, but I took tons since high school. But I took tons of classes on like what to read and how to read. And unfortunately, once you become a writer, reading is a little bit spoiled for you, probably, because we don't read quite the same way. We're obsessed with figuring out, how did they do this? Why did this work? Why did this not work? And just the more stuff you expose yourself to, and the more critical eye you bring to the work of the books you love and to the books you dislike. I think that's Stephen King advice, that you can learn a lot. You can learn even more from reading a terrible book than you can from reading a good one sometimes, because it will really show you some lessons on what you don't want to do. So, thank you, young Berk, for your inspiration for piece of advice number 2. Okay, piece of advice number 3. I am going to steal from myself. From my subconscious. This was a while ago. I woke up from a dream, and I was like, I just was saying, the fear. And my wife was like, what? And what are you talking about? And I was like, the fear. Like, I was half asleep, and I didn't know what I was talking about. And as I came to, I realized that in my dream, the fear was a living thing. The fear was a baby with the head of Polly Walnuts from The Sopranos, like the mobster. Picture the slick hair, like the weird white thing. Yeah, but a baby's body following me around, like freaking me out, and that was the fear. And I was, at some stage of my publication process that was freaking me out, and the fear was stalking me. And it was such a literal and obvious dream, but in a weird way it sort of helped me to picture the fear as a living thing, and a slightly laughable, although also terrifying one, like a baby with a mobster head. But my third piece of advice is to learn to live with the fear, because the fear doesn't go away. You don't stop being afraid, for me at least, of being a failure at each step in the process. It's always there, and it always stalks you, and you can't let it stop you. And you can't even worry about having it go away. You just have to learn to live with it. And like I did last year, I'm going to read a poem that I wrote. I don't often get asked to read poems. I actually never get asked to read poems. I actually haven't been asked to read one even now, but I'm still going to. And this poem is called Make Friends with the Fear. The fear is an insatiable beast feeding on your tears and self-doubt. The fear is a sly fellow, a sneaky fox who pops up into your heart, your mind, your manuscript, your life at precisely the moment you need him the least. The fear is a cynical bastard, an unwanted house guest, a congenital condition, an endless itch. The fear is kind of a and I have learned to live with the fear. I have not killed the fear. I have not vanquished the fear. I have not triumphed and crushed the fear with my booted heel. I have simply learned to live with the fear. And they say the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. And the greatest trick the fear ever pulled was to convince you that the only way not to fail would be not to try. And this is a sly trick, fear, you miserable. You almost convinced me not to try, so that I would not fail. But if I listened to you, I certainly would have failed, because the only certain path to failure is not to try, and the only certain path to success is to try like hell. The fear is strong, but I am stronger. The fear is tough, but I am tougher. The fear is determined, but I am more so, and the fear will never win. I know you'll never go away, fear, and that's fine. But if you would, for a little while, please go sit over there and leave me alone, because I have a book to write. So there you go. Short poem. The fear, the little baby with the mobster head. Push him off to the side. Tell him to sit over there and leave you alone, because you have a book to write. So get to it and enjoy the conference, and I wish you all the best of luck. Oh, and I forgot one thing. Everyone knows the best part of a conference is the free stuff, so this should be no different. So if you read down below, there'll be some directions there on some giveaways that I'm more than happy to do with our lovely WriteOnCon hosts. So, yeah, thanks again for having me.
Josh.
What? Wait, what?
Josh, I found your cat suit.
Oh, wait. You found the cat suit?
Yeah, it's behind the chaps.
Oh, so wait, what am I wearing?
I don't think you're wearing anything.
That's just not. Sorry. Okay.